Man, there's been a lot of news happening in the Disneyland orbit recently, and for good reason. Disneyland is back. So today, I want to update you guys on a few key developments that may impact your upcoming Disneyland visits. We're going to cover the current state of reservations available for Disneyland, both in the near term and the new days being added to the calendar, the reopening announcement of the Paradise Pier Hotel and surrounding restaurants, updates on the status of Oogie Boogie Bash for this fall, and expectations for the near future with regard to COVID restrictions. All this and more coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Baked. It's been about a week now since the reopening day of Disneyland, and after that early hype, that super hype that we had the first few days, things have actually kind of started to settle into almost a normal business as usual pattern at the Disneyland Resort. The park is open, people are going, they're having a good time. No major stories have been coming out of the resort other than the issue we just talked about earlier with regard to parking, but even that was not the biggest deal of all. But there is news, and we're going to start with the availability of reservations both in the near term and in the future. The need for a reservation to go to Disneyland is not just for the opening weeks. It's an ongoing situation that we're going to have to constantly be aware of for a while now still. Guests have to be constantly vigilant of that 60-day window as dates progressively get added to the calendar each new day. For example, we reported on FreshBaked Presents, our sister channel where we provide additional Disneyland news and information. We reported there that a bunch of new dates had been added to the calendar, a bunch of new reservations for the month of May. A calendar that once looked like this suddenly looked like this. But then those dates sold out pretty quickly as well. But you can still actually get some tickets for May, even for Disneyland, as long as you're okay with getting a park hopper and starting at DCA. And I expect the same will be the case for June in the months ahead, though right now it's pretty bleak. There are no single park tickets for Disneyland available, and most of the weekends are booked for DCA in June. It's only slightly better for park hoppers. Again, all weekends are completely booked, even those starting at DCA. Only the latter half of June appears to be available as of this writing, but some do begin at Disneyland. Now, something that is worth remembering, and I'm going to keep repeating this as often as I can, every day a new date gets added to the calendar. I'm asked all the time, David, I want to go in August. When should I book a date for then? Well, you want to book a date 60 days prior to the actual date that you want to go. Today is May 9th. Today, reservations become available for 60 days from now, or June 8th. Tomorrow, July 9th will become available, whereas today it is not. And each day, each successive day, another day gets added to the rolling 60-day calendar. We as guests need to be constantly aware of this rolling calendar. Otherwise, we may miss our chance. The same thing darn near happened to me. I was looking to get a reservation for July 1st. I forgot which day it was, and I looked up and I went, oh my God, I got to go on the calendar. I was 3 days late. Luckily, there were still some tickets available, but that may or may not be the case depending on what day you're trying to get. Mine was a Thursday, less popular. It could be that, you're trying to get a weekend or a holiday or something like that. You got to be vigilant. Figure out which days you want to go. 60 days prior to that, not 2 months, but 60 literal days prior to the date you want to go. Set yourself a reminder, then be there that day to get your reservation. And don't forget, again, don't just buy the ticket, because it's going to ask you to choose a date. That first time that they ask you to choose a date is just to figure out how much your ticket is going to be. Buy the ticket. Then when you're done purchasing the ticket, make your reservation. Don't forget. Okay, next is the announcement that Disney is going to reopen the Paradise Pier Hotel on June 15th. You can actually book those reservations now. It's available now for June 15th or later. The hotel is open, but none of its restaurants, though, will be open. And hopefully soon this will lead to the Disneyland Hotel in its towers reopening, because as of now, it's still not open and we still don't know when. And I'm not sure why this is, though I suspect, as with the case with everything else, it's a staffing issue. Not enough people for food, for the restaurants, not enough people for the parking structure, not enough people for the hotels. Now, I will say, though, that we are getting more restaurants, though. Even though the Paradise Pier Hotel restaurants won't be open, we are getting more restaurants in that area. The Craftsman Bar and Grill is going to be reopening also on May 28th. And that not to the general public. Previously, it had been open only to those guests of the Grand Californian. Now it's open to the general public, as too will be Napa Rose and Storytellers Cafe. Although I don't know it. they haven't said, is the Storytellers Cafe going to be serving a buffet? Because buffets are kind of a dinosaur right now in the food service industry, so I'm going to look into that. So that's good news on that. Calendars, though, are still wanting for information on October and the Oogie Boogie Bash. And I mention that now because now is the time when those tickets would be going on sale. If we were going to be having an Oogie Boogie Bash, we should know already because tickets would already be being sold. So the lack of news on that front is bad news. And so too was the announcement that we got the other day with regard to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. We thought that they were going to announce that it would be returning to Walt Disney World, the Not So Scary Halloween Party. Instead, that show or that event has been, I don't know if canceled is the right word. They're not doing that this year. Instead, they're doing the Boo Bash, which it's a paid ticket. It's a separate event, separate from your regular ticket. So at least we know it's going to have some sort of, itinerary. It's going to be more than just a kind of a cheap overlay or something like that. It's an event, but it sounds like it's not going to rise to the level of the Not So Scary Halloween Party for obvious reasons, I would imagine, in terms of social distancing and that kind of thing. And I mention that because it reinforces, again, they didn't say anything about Disneyland in that announcement as far as Halloween goes. So it does not look, it looks very bleak, in my opinion, for any kind of Halloween event at Disneyland other than decorating. They're probably going to decorate, maybe some ride overlays, although I doubt Haunted Mansion will get it. I think they're going to, this is my suspicion, that Haunted Mansion is going to stay Haunted Mansion this year. No Nightmare overlay, but you might see something, in Cars Land or DCA really is probably going to get its reskin. I hope so. I really do hope so. But we'll be paying attention to that story as it develops, like a lot of things. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with a little bit of update on the status of Disneyland with respect to COVID. And we'll start again by referencing Walt Disney World again, where recently we heard that they dropped the policy that you had to have a mask on while you were taking photos. We heard then that they were going to be reducing the social distancing limit from 6 feet to 3 feet, which is great news for capacity reasons. And now recently we've heard that they're going to stop doing temperature checks, health screening before you enter the park. And a little side note on that, I went to Knott's on Thursday, first day of AP preview. My temperature was not checked at Knott's Berry Farm. Interesting. But nothing from Disneyland on this. I mentioned these things only as something to look forward to, a possibility of what might happen in the near term. But still, we're under the same. We just got open, so it's going to be a minute before they start jumping into changing social distancing requirements or capacity changes. I think Disney wants to get things going first at Disneyland, and then they start making those kinds of changes. Meanwhile, Disney has not confirmed if they're running capacity at 15% or 25%, although if you've been in the parks the last couple of days, you could pretty much be assured it's not 15. It did not feel like 15, although I'm not saying it's busy, but it wasn't 15. It felt more like 25. Also, no word on if they're going to increase capacity to 35% if Orange County gets to the yellow tier, which everybody thought we were going to be there by now, but we're still in orange. Orange County is still in the orange tier, haven't yet achieved yellow, which, by the way, no confirmation from the state if they're going to hold on. The governor said a while back that they're going to drop the whole colored-coded tier system on June 15th. I'm not sure why he chose that day or what that day means, but on June 15th, it was noted that they're probably going to drop the tier system, which means they're going to drop all of the restrictions. Haven't heard anything since that first announcement, so no confirmation if that's going to happen. But Disney did confirm that if they do that, this is a while back they said this, if the state does drop the tier system, then Disney would allow out-of-state guests to purchase a ticket. Now that's good news for out-of-state guests, but they did not make a corresponding change in capacity limits to go with that. So what that tells me is that there's going to be a lot more competition for buying a ticket June 15th and later. So be aware if you're looking at tickets, make up your mind soon, because there's going to be more people competing for those same 25% tickets as there are now. Important consideration, a lot of competition. Tickets could sell out quicker unless they increase capacity. Now, like I said before, if they reduce or if they eliminate the tier system, that eliminates not just the restriction on out-of-state visitors, but it also eliminates social distancing restrictions, and it eliminates capacity restrictions. Now, Disney could still choose to do those things. They could still choose, like they're doing at Walt Disney World, to maintain 6 feet or 3 feet. They could still choose to keep capacity to a minimum or to limit it in some way, even though the state is allowing them to be wide open. So, food for thought. It's going to get more competitive if they do drop those color-coded tier system restrictions. For now, we wait and see. It's going to be a little while still, I think, for Disneyland to see any sort of substantial change on this. What is today's May 9th? Well, gosh, June 15th is just a little over a month away. So I would say it's going to be a couple weeks at least before we hear anything in that regard. Cross your fingers. But we'll be watching and listening, of course, so be sure to stay tuned to FreshBaked. We are your leading authority on how to do Disneyland. We've been doing it for a while, and we've got you covered. Until then, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked and on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E. And if you enjoy our show and would like to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked. You can join for as little as $1. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. Be safe out there, be kind to one another, and FreshBaked.